Welcome back to Angel Bread Stories. I'm Brad, the man behind the writing and the sultry baritones. Before we start, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. You know the drill. And if you'd like to be part of the community, we have a Discord server linked in the description below. But without further ado, sit back, take a deep breath, and relax. And I hope you enjoy the video. Hey guys, I will preface this with saying I am a little bit ill, and I've been ill for probably like over 2 weeks now, but it's so annoying. Of course I got ill as soon as I was like, I want to get back into making content and recording videos. So I got ill, it was really bad at the beginning, but I've gotten better, but I've just got this cough, and like, I can't talk for very long without coughing, and I feel this like tickle in the back of my throat, even like right now. But it's been too long, and I need to record. I want to record videos, please. So, I am sorry if there's weird little cuts in here, or my voice sounds a little bit off. If it does, if that's very obvious to those of you listening right now, then you know why. But, without further ado, this is chapter 1 of Shadows of Heaven, The Last Ascendant. I won't go into my kind of behind-the-scenes thoughts and the development of this. I'll do it after I've read through it, because I don't want to keep you guys waiting. Let's jump right into things, shall we? Chapter 1. Bread Rolls and Bad Decisions. Circa a millennium after the war in heaven. You're a fucking idiot! Karis Bailey dodged the incoming bread roll, leaping behind the open door of his wardrobe. I haven't even answered yet, Karis cried out. You don't have to! You went as red as Tritana juice, Maeve screamed in response. The door to their shared quarters cracked open, and Jev's square head rounded the corner. He was, as always, ready earlier than everyone else. What's going on? He slipped inside and closed the door behind him, raising one of his thick blonde eyebrows at the sight of Karis cowering behind a wardrobe. Maeve, please, Karis pleaded, sweeping platinum hair from his forehead, deep blue eyes imploring she show an ounce of mercy. Maeve rolled her eyes, stepping forward aggressively, her ashen blonde hair still dripping water onto the black stone floor. Somebody, she shot Karis a look, fucked him. Jev took a deep breath, eyes widening as he nodded slowly. Well, was he big? Pomena said it was like... A bread roll made a dull thud as it came into contact with Jev's skull. Maeve's eyes wide with warning as she held another roll in her palm. Out! You know, it's hard to take you seriously when you're in a towel. It's like... Another resounding thud, the roll making contact with the exact same spot on Jev's forehead. Out! By the gods, why do you keep so many bread rolls on hand? Out! What? If Pomena is to be believed, then I can only imagine how sore Karis is. Another thud. I'm about to make you so sore, you'll be able to relate to Pomena personally. Get out! Okay. A roll to forehead coordination is ridiculous. Out! Maeve screeched, stomping towards Jev. I'm going. Good! Maeve slammed the door shut behind Jev. Karis parted his lips to speak, but the words about to exit them were quickly throttled to a damp death by Maeve's dagger-like death stare. She sighed, walked to her wardrobe, and began to dry her hair with a fire crystal. its glass skin pulsating with an inner amber glow. With his own wardrobe no longer being employed as a shield, Garrus began to change into a fresh uniform. After what felt like a millennium of judgmental silence, Maeve spoke. When I found you, wandering around the ass side of nowhere, in the damp, cold wilds of the Obsidian Cascades, when I taught you everything you know about being a servant at Bleakhold, what was the first rule I told you? The exasperation in her voice matched the mildly melodramatic way she punched her arms into her blouse and bobbled her head as she buttoned it up. Garrus gulped. She was right. He had lost control of the situation so quickly. Don't sleep with the prince, he muttered. Don't fuck the prince. That's right. I didn't tell you that for fun, Garrus. I know. I'm sorry. I don't know what came over you. Firstly, I've heard that before. Secondly, we both know what came over you. Do you really have to tease me about it? I feel guilty enough already, he whined as he buckled his belt around his waist. Maeve swiveled on her heel. She was almost dressed, her hands combed through her curled hair, gathering the strands up to be tied back. I either tease you or throw you from the battlements. Garrus took a look in the mirror. The uniform was mostly black and white, with hints of an oaken brown. He made sure everything was perfect. There was no doubt Jinhua would be performing additional uniform checks before the lords and ladies arrived. Maeve stepped behind him, handed him his boots, and slipped into her own. I feel like a whore, Maeve. Garrus's head drooped low. He wished he had a better reason why he did it. He thought he'd be immune to the prince's infamous advances. But he was only human, and the prince, well, that was subject to whispered speculations. Maeve sighed. Her sharp features softened. The beams of morning light struck her golden skin as she wrapped an arm around Garrus. She rested her chin upon his head, a small smile on her lips as she rolled her eyes playfully. Don't you dare. You're no whore. She widened her eyes, staring off at the small table where Garrus made his flower crowns. Pomena, on the other hand, now she's a whore. That woman has been taken for a ride more times than a carriage horse. A laugh burst its way from Garrus's lips. Maeve's smile grew wider, then faded slightly as she began to fiddle with Garrus's uniform. Her tone was soft when she spoke again. I know you wouldn't do that with just anyone. I'm sure he made you feel like you had some kind of connection. But it's a lie, Garrus. It's just how he works. We've all heard the stories. You're not special to him. Her words weren't intended to hurt. Garrus knew that, but it didn't lessen the sting. I know. And he may be called the Dark Prince. He's our king. Don't forget that. Garrus bit his lip nervously. Do you believe the stories? Which ones? Maeve chaffed, rolling her eyes lightly. That he's ruled the Obsidian Cascades for hundreds of years? I'm not sure. But if that's true, you sure like an age gap. Garrus turned to Maeve, hitting her shoulder playfully, a blend of shock and amusement on his face. You're such a bitch, oh my gods. They shared a laugh, Maeve's face quickly growing serious again, her hand finding Garrus's arm. Seriously, Garrus, don't get involved with him. He's dangerous. You've heard how things can get ugly when he's bored of his newest pet. Garrus's eyes fell to the floor, his voice a whisper. I'm sorry. You're right. I don't know what I was thinking. Maeve squeezed him, then walked towards the door. It's your heart. Got to keep it guarded in the Cascades. Be careful who you trust it with. Now hurry up. We can't be late for this. You know the prince has killed servants for less. Karis put his boots on before following Maeve, pushing a smile onto his face. You trust Jev with your heart? Maeve chuckled. Of course. You think that idiot is capable of betrayal? I'm surprised he's capable of getting ready so early. It's only so he can come see you. Well, he can't be faulted for that, can he? She winked as she opened the door. Jev was stood outside, leaning against the wall, his arms crossed and his foot tapping the stone floor. He looked up as the pair stepped out from their quarters. Hello, gorgeous, he said to Maeve with a smile, then looking to Karis. Hey, buddy. Jev's usual greeting had a tinge of pity to it that Karis had only ever heard from his parents, so much so that he half expected Jev to tell him there's plenty more fish in the sea. It felt both humiliating and strangely comforting. Both emotions expressed themselves on Karis's face as an awkwardly toothy smile. Maeve paused in front of Jev, her hands on her hips. She squinted slightly as she examined him, a deep pondering lowering her brow. After a few moments, the ponderance lifted from her face. She shrugged her shoulders, feigning indifference. You look good. Jev smirked. You know it. Maeve fought a smile. Shut up, she replied, strutting down the hallway. Jev continued to smirk, pushing himself off the wall. I love you too, he called out. Jev turned to Karis. I'm just glad she doesn't have a bread roll on her hands anymore. You two have the weirdest relationship, Karis giggled, shaking his head lightly. A warmth breached Jev's expression. Karis's laugh stopped. A glimmer of the humiliation he felt flickered in his eyes. Jev gulped. He was never good with being soft and emotional, but he always tried for Karis. You okay? Yeah, I think. Jev was even taller than Maeve, and tilted his head just to make eye contact with Karis. I'm always here if you need me, bud. I'll fight the bastard if he comes onto you again, he said, slapping a giant hand on Karis's shoulder. The two looked at each other in silence, before breaking into laughter. We both know how that would go, Karis quipped. It's the thought that counts. The two began to walk after Maeve towards the Grand Hall, passing a handful of fellow servants who had begun to exit their quarters. A smirk wormed its way across Karis's face. You have thoughts? I'm impressed. You cheeky twat, I just offered to die for you, Maeve hollered from ahead of them. I said shut up. The two glanced at each other, sharing a smile. So, that is chapter 1. And, well, firstly, I hope you enjoyed it. Please tell me what you think in the comments below. Always love to hear. This was a rather important chapter when it comes to the structure of the whole piece, because the prologue is very, very description heavy, uses a lot of fancy words, and kind of borders almost into purple prose territory where it's a little too flowery with its language and blah blah blah. That's a deliberate choice from me because I wanted it to be kind of fairy tale-esque. You know, this is almost the ancient myths of old being retold. You're just kind of seeing it through Michael's perspective. So it was really important that this next chapter set the reader expectation that that prologue, or the style of the prologue, isn't what you're going to be getting 100% of the time. You will also get chapters and scenes like this, where it's a lot quippier, it's a lot faster, the action is cut down to a lot more simple terms, like he smirked, she sighed, he shook his head, he, whatever. And it kind of, you very fast-paced go through the dialogue. And also, as a bit of a tonal reset for you, because the prologue is depressing. So depressing. And this kind of acts as a little bit of a palate cleanser, and also to just lighten the mood. It's something that establishes the character of Karis, gives you a little bit of the beginnings of the main plot. You understand that something's gone on between Karis and the Dark Prince, and he regrets it because he's kind of realizing that he's probably just been used. And so it gets into this whole thing. It builds the foundations of the toxic relationship that will exist between Karis and Samael, which is important because this story is, well, one of the main focuses of the story is Samael realizing that he was a terrible person when he kind of ran from his trauma by becoming the Dark Prince, and he started a very problematic relationship with Karis. And by the end of the book, he asks to start again on equal terms. So it's very important to set up the foundations for that really, really early on. So we get these important things whilst having it kind of wrapped in this very light-hearted, kind of funny scene that has a few emotional moments and, also sets up this dynamic between friends. Funny thing is, when I first did kind of the initial drafts of this, and I showed it to people and my lecturers and blah blah blah, and everyone was like, "Well, yeah, this is really fun dynamic between these guys, and I can't wait to see more of Maeve and Jev." And I was there like, I wasn't planning on, because obviously if you've listened to the audio series, then you know that Maeve and Jev don't exist in that. Partially because one of them's a woman and I can't voice women, unsurprisingly. So these were a completely new addition, and they were just intended to be throwaways. They were just going to be his servant friends that kind of existed, and blah blah blah. And everyone was like, I can't wait to see more of them, and I can't wait to see this and that. And I was like, oh, okay, now I kind of feel like I need to keep them in. And the more I thought about it, the more I realised I probably do actually want to keep them in. Partially because they can kind of almost act as a, I don't know what the word is, like a reminder of Karis's human self and his kind of human life that he's lived. And I think one of the best ways to be able to track Karis's growth from human to divine ascendant is to explore how his relationship with Maeve and Jev changes. And we can kind of, I think it would be quite interesting to see them getting distant from one another, as kind of Maeve and Jev are constantly warning Karis, stop this stuff with Samael, stop getting with the Dark Prince, stop this, you need to break this off. And Karis kind of can't quite explain why he can't, and he wants more, and he thinks that, there's a good person hidden under there, and it causes a rift between them. And I think it's just a really interesting relationship dynamic to explore, especially between friends, because these are your diehard friends. These are your besties. Alien besties? No, these are your besties who would die for you. So, of course, they get very heated about it. And another interesting thing, just mentioning him made me think about it, is how are these two going to interact with Ilian when Ilian pops around? So, I mean, I haven't set any of the story in stone past what I've written, obviously, because everything can be changed. But it's an interesting foundation to set, and I think it's got some really interesting dynamics to explore. I am at risk of giving myself too much to explore and setting up too many storylines and kind of too many character dynamics and blah blah blah, and not being able to finish them in a satisfying way by the end of one book. But at the end of the day, this is not planned to be just one book, is it? This book will end at Karis's ascension, and then the second book would be them uniting the realms for the war. So there's kind of already planned to be multiple books, so maybe I'm okay with leaving a few open-ended things by the end of this story in particular. But anyway, thank you very much, again, to like the 5 of you that actually listened to those wild ramblings. I appreciate you very, very much. Thank you for listening to me. I'm a nerd, I know, and I appreciate you. So, with that all done, I wish you a very good day or night. Thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next one. Before this video ends, I'd like to give a huge shout out to the disciples of Jesus Christ who support me over on Patreon. If you'd like to join them, check out the links in the description. But with that done, thank you very much for joining me, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye-bye.